Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there, wherever you are, and welcome to the WP Builds podcast. This is episode number 99, entitled Help Your Clients to Help You with a Client Portal. Laura Elizabeth Explains. It was published on Thursday, the 25th of October, 2018. My name's Nathan Wrigley from pictureandword.co.uk, a small web development agency based in the north of England. And today, I'm not joined by David Wormsley because it's an interview with Laura Elizabeth from Client Portal. So there we go. A couple of bits of housekeeping. Please, if you enjoy the podcast, head over to wpbuilds.com and use the menu at the top. If you click on the subscribe link, you'll be able to subscribe to us. We have a Facebook group which is thriving. We also emit notifications in our Slack channel. We've got a messenger update option, and also we put all of this content out on YouTube. We'd certainly appreciate it if you feel free to go and give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Apparently that really helps. That would be most welcome indeed. Now, it's episode 99 today, so that means that next week it's episode 100, and it's a bit of a weird one. If you go over to wpbuilds.com/webinars, you'll find that there is a webinar entitled Episode 100 Live, because we're going to do a live episode. We've got myself and David Wormsley coming on. We've also got Jim Galliano, we've got David McCann, we've got Vaughan Simons, who are all major contributors to our Facebook group, and possibly another person whose name I won't mention because he may or may not be able to turn up because he's on holiday, and if he does, that's great, and if he doesn't, no problem. But yeah, we're going to do an episode that's live just to sort of celebrate this 100th episode. It's a bit of a milestone for David and I, and the intention is that we will give out the prizes, because if you go to wpbuilds.com/100, we have our episode 100 quite good giveaway. And if you haven't entered it so far, you really should go and enter it, because there are over 180 WordPress prizes, themes, plugins, training, all sorts of things. It runs out on the day before the 100th podcast, so that's the last day of October, Halloween. And you can win just a ridiculous amount of stuff. I've mentioned it before. There's things like Microthemer, Elementor, there's Beaver Builder, Power Pack, Ultimate Add-ons, WP Ultimo, lots of Zach Gordon courses. Oh, goodness me, Page Builder Framework, Ultimate Dashboard, Smart Slider, some time to talk to Troy Dean, Swift, Cobalt Apps, Unstoppable Courses, Convert Pro, Missing Letter, Project Huddle, ACF Pro, Client Portal, which is actually what we're going to be talking about today, Facet WP, Content Snare, Breezy Page Builder. I mean, the list goes on and on. Astra as well, yeah. Loads and loads of good stuff. And so we're going to be announcing those prizes live. And we thought it would be nice if we got a few people from our community who've been really helpful and thoughtful to come on with us as well. So please, if you fancy joining us live, it's going to be next week, 3 p.m. So that's Thursday, the 1st of November, 3 p.m. UK time. If you go to, like I say, wpbuilds.com/webinars, and you click on the big blue button which says register now or something like that, I think it says register now. Yeah, register now. Then it's got an option to register for the podcast so you can join us live. And above the register button is a little drop down. It's kind of hidden, but it's a drop down which can include your time zone. So if you do that, you'll be able to see exactly when it will be in your time zone. Okay, there we go. Nothing more to add, really, except to say that today we've got Laura Elizabeth from Client Portal on. She's a UK citizen, but she's living in the United States, in Virginia, and she's got a fabulous product, two products really, a course and a plugin called Client Portal, And the idea of Client Portal is that it will enable you to very quickly and very simply get information about your projects to and from your client. It's a nice little simple dashboard plugin, and I think the simplicity of it is its greatest strength. So have a listen, see what you think about that, and please come and join us and register for next week's podcast. The more the merrier, that would be really nice. Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast. Hello there, thank you for listening to this part, getting this far into the podcast. Today, all the way from, well, you know what? All the way from the UK and North America, all at the same time, is Laura Elizabeth. Hello, Laura.
Hello.
Laura, the reason I say that is because, as you'll discover in just a moment, Laura has got the English accent going on. So she's from England, but she lives in Virginia in North America right at the moment. And we've got her on today because she has got a really fabulous little product called Client Portal, which is a WordPress plugin. Before we get into that, I'm going to ask you, Laura, to tell us about your sort of backstory, if you like. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can move on into how you got into coding and what have you. So yeah, just first of all, tell us who you are and what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so I'm Laura, and I started as a designer. I've been a web designer for the last, I think, 7 or maybe even 8 years. I studied design throughout university and college, and then I went to work in a design agency, and then I started freelancing about a year after that. And I've been freelancing basically ever since. And then I brought out this product, which you mentioned, Client Portal. And that was actually initially something that I made for myself while I was freelancing to use with my clients. And I'll explain a little bit more about what it is a bit later. And that a lot of people were really interested in that. So I basically put it up for sale and launched the product. And from about February this year onwards, I don't really freelance very much anymore, and I've been pretty much full-time on product. So I've got the Client Portal plugin, and I also have a design course for developers called Design Academy. So those two keep me very, very busy. From about February onwards.
Did you intend to drop the freelancing, or was that just like an accident and you found that you had no free space in your week, so one had to go and the plugins and the courses seemed like the best bet?
Yeah, I think it was interesting. I always admired people who were more into the product space because it looked like a lot of fun. It looked like, they were sort of building their own businesses rather than trading time for money, which is when I was freelancing, I felt like that's what I was doing. In a lot of ways, when I was freelancing, I still felt like I had a full-time job because my clients really expected me to be around, during normal working hours, which I totally understand. But I always wanted more of a, I don't know if work-life balance is the right word for it, but I didn't want to have to be at my desk from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And I still felt with freelancing, I kind of had to be there because, they'd call me or they'd email me and they'd expect a response straight away. And so I was always looking for something else to do, but I wasn't quite sure what that would be and whether I was actually even capable of building any kind of business around anything other than freelancing. So it happened very slowly. I started with building an audience. It was actually an audience of developers. And over the space of maybe 2 years or so, that it actually, became a proper business where I had, products and stuff that I could sell. So it was kind of on purpose, but I didn't quite know what I was doing.
Yeah, I can understand. I think probably a lot of the people in this group have toyed with the idea of doing exactly what you have ended up doing. The idea of freelancing is just this glorious lifestyle where you spend loads of time on a beach. Of course, it's not like that. You end up doing kind of business hours, don't you? And very, very rarely do I kind of just suddenly shoot off and go and do something inspirational or different. You just sort of stay at the desk and do your work. And I've often thought, could I make a SaaS app out of that? Or could I make a plugin out of that? And kind of never got around to it. So how did you How did you take the leap to do it? What was the process that you went through during that 2-year period, roughly, where you were building up your list? What was the stuff that you were involved with? Were you on Facebook? Were you putting out videos, writing tutorials? What?
Yeah, so it really started with Design Academy, so teaching design to developers. And what it was when I was freelancing, my favorite clients were always developers. I just love working with them, and they always had the same issue, which is that they really appreciated good design, but they didn't know how to replicate it. And they had all these ideas for little side projects that they wanted to do that they didn't really know whether they were going to monetize. So they didn't really want to invest much into it at the start, but they wanted to know how to make it look good. So I kind of saw that recurring issue come up over and over again. So I thought, I've been in exactly the same situation when I was at college and university, and even working in a design agency. I felt like I did not know how to make something look good. I felt like I was just missing something. And so I could really relate to these developers who were saying, I understand that design is about solving problems and all that kind of stuff. And I know that, UX is really important. I feel like I understand that and I know how to do that. But how do I just make it look decent? Like, how do I make it not look terrible? So I thought, this is something that I think I'm going to try and do. I'm going to try and make a course to teach developers how to design. So I started speaking at as many conferences as I could, going on podcasts, doing guest posts for other people without anything actually to sell, but just to build an audience of developers so I could actually find out more about what they struggled with and then build the course with my audience, like coming along with me. And so that was kind of the goal. Creating a course is a crazy ton of work. I didn't realize how much work it would be. And I could never, ever find the time to do that while I was freelancing. It always slipped down the priority list. I really felt like I needed to be able to focus on it full time, but with that, if I wasn't freelancing, I wouldn't have the income to enable me to focus on it full time. So I was kind of a little bit stuck there. And so what happened with Client Portal, that came out as a little bit of an accident. So like I mentioned, I was speaking at a lot of conferences. I got asked to speak at a freelancing conference about how to work remotely with clients. And I did a talk on working remotely, and I kind of briefly mentioned this dashboard that I made to use with my clients, because I was talking about how, sometimes if you use something complex like Basecamp and you're just working on a small project, clients won't use it, the learning curve's too steep. So, hey, why don't you just put a dashboard on your website which keeps all of your deliverables in the same place, and you can link out to different services, like if you use Newsy or Better Proposals or something for proposals, and HelloSign for contracts, or Google Docs, and you've got all these different branded services. Why not just have a really simple dashboard so you can keep it in one place? And what happened after the conference is the organizer went around the room and said, what was the number one takeaway you got from this entire conference? And way more than 50% of the audience actually said, Laura's Client Portal idea, it's genius, I want one, where can I get it? So that kind of made me think, oh wow, maybe I've got something here that I can make a product out of. I was a little bit unsure, but a lot of people really encouraged me to go ahead and do it. And the organizer himself said, look, if you actually want to make this into a product, I'll promote it to my audience. And we'll do like a joint venture thing where he takes 50, I take 50% of whatever sales they make, because he knew his audience really wanted this. So he was happy to sort of promote it. So I decided, okay, let's do it. And he said I basically had until Monday, and I think this was like Thursday or something, where he'd send out the promotion because he was sending something out anyway. So I basically had like 4 days to kind of make this into some kind of product. So I wrote all the documentation, I cleaned up the HTML template, because at the time it was just a HTML template. I wrote emails about, what the product was, sort of, what you could use it for. And the most important thing was, after asking most people, they all said they needed it to be a WordPress plugin. A HTML template just wasn't going to cut it. Most people used WordPress, so it had to be WordPress. And I'd say, if you buy now, you're going to get it for the lowest price. And I'm basically going to reinvest all that money into creating a WordPress plugin, which was great for me because I'm quite low risk with a lot of things that I do. So I didn't really want to invest too much money if like it was just going to be a flop. And that really helped because the launch went really well. And I made more than enough to hire a really good developer to make it into a WordPress plugin and to make it into a product. And then, suddenly within the space of a few days, I was basically in products. It wasn't a full-time income, straight away. I was still freelancing, but I had something that I could sell, and I had something that I could build, and I had an audience of developers, some of whom were freelancers and were interested in the product. And so it just kind of came out of that. So Design Academy, the design course, was meant to be my first product, but it just so happened that Client Portal was easier to ship and I had this great opportunity. So that became my first product. And then, yeah, that's basically the story.
Well, it's really fascinating. I mean, some things are just hit and miss, aren't they? You don't know. And the thing that you least expect to be super successful or popular or desirable ends up being the thing that you make your living out of. What's interesting in that story, what I really like about that is there was still a moment in there where it could have gone horribly wrong, because you did say, I will release this as a WordPress plugin and you need to, give us some money in advance. Presumably there must have been a heart-rending moment where the first people handed over money and now you're thinking, okay, now I've got to build it, even if nobody else signs up.
I know. That was the terrifying thing, because I knew that theoretically I could treat it like a Kickstarter and I could potentially, it was more difficult because I was doing the joint venture thing, but I could refund people.
Yes.
But I knew I really did not want to do that.
Yeah.
I would probably, even if I only got a few sales, I'd have probably dipped into my own money to hire a developer and just use that as, extra, just to, motivate me to make sure I sell more. But it was scary, and I was just not confident that people were gonna buy this, and I was so surprised about how well it did. And everyone says that the great thing about the product is that it's simple. A lot of products, you think when you make a product you've got to make the ultimate product that kind of does everything. And what I really love about Client Portal is that it really does one thing, but it does it really well. And because it's so simple, it's just ridiculously flexible. So, you don't have to just use it with clients. We were talking just before the call and I was saying, I actually used Client Portal for my knowledge base for Client Portal. I've used it for, online courses and stuff like that. It's so unbelievably flexible because it's so simple. And that's just something I'm knowing what goes into making a product. I'm so glad it's simple, because there's an awful lot of work, even for something like Client Portal. I mean, I'm working on it every single day, and reinvesting a lot into it, even though it's so simple. So, I think about all these SaaS apps and stuff and I think, wow, how do you do that? That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, simplicity, the design is lovely, by the way, and the simplicity of it is, I think, where the strength lies, exactly as you said. I downloaded it and got the PDF documentation, and I sort of scanned through it, and I was sort of scanning, continuing, thinking, okay, there's only about 8 pages or something. Great, that's good. I always think that's a good mark, because there's not too many things to do to get started. So maybe we should flip the conversation now onto the product itself and what it's intended for and how it goes about doing it. Now, I should say, if you were to go onto the internet and Google Client Portal, you will probably run up against some videos where it demonstrates how it works, and that's always going to be a lot easier than us trying to describe it, but we'll give it a go anyway. I should point out that the URL is client-portal.io, so that's where you'd need to go if you wanted to actually look at the product pages itself. But maybe go onto YouTube or something and Google that and see what comes up. So, Laura, tell us specifically what it does and how it does it, and what the features are that you're really proud of.
Yeah, so the idea is it's meant to be used for freelancers and agencies to use with their clients, and it's really made for people who have an existing workflow that they kind of replicate over and over again for their clients. So, for example, for my workflow, I used Google Docs to write the brief. And the reason I use Google Docs is because I wanted my clients to be able to collaborate in real time on that brief with me. I use things like InVision for prototypes and, all these different kinds of tools. So it's really good for people who do that. And basically what you do is when you start a project, you send your client an email with a URL and a login information. And they go to your website and they get met with like a login page. They log in and they see basically this portal of information for everything to do with your project. From I put things like my availability and my working hours, how I prefer to be contacted. I do a weekly call with my clients, so I reiterate the time of that. And then underneath, what you can see is a lot of different modules, and you can see some are active, so they're clickable, so you can click on them and you can either download files from them, you can go to an external URL, or you can go to a sort of content page where it's a client portal content page where you can write basically whatever you want in there. You can see some that have got little ticks next to them. So these are the modules that have been completed, and some that are grayed out. So these are the modules that are upcoming, but they're not started yet. And that's kind of a really important distinction, because what I really wanted was when a client logs on to their portal, I wanted them to be able to see exactly where they were in the process visually at any given point, and be able to see what's upcoming, what they need to be working on right now. Maybe the client needs to complete something, maybe you need to complete something, and they just have this very, very visual way to kind of see that. And that's really important because a lot of clients don't necessarily know how projects like this work, and they want to be able to know, what to expect. Maybe you tell them in their first call, but they forget. So it's really nice being able to see everything that's upcoming for their project. And they can keep this afterwards as well, and just use it as a hub to find files or proposals or whatever they need to find. Like, as long as they need it, it can be there for them, which reduces the need for them to email you in like 6 months down the line saying, oh, hey, remember that logo you did for me 6 months ago? I've lost the file. They don't need to do that. They just log in and they can find it all there.
The nice thing about it is, coming from the sort of WordPress community, obviously everybody listening to this is tinkering and playing with WordPress all the time. So we know how to manage all that kind of stuff. And I do really like the fact that you haven't tried to build here an app which tries to do everything. So, you can defer the stuff over to Google Drive, exactly as you say, because that stuff has its amazing collaboration built in. Heaps of people are using it, and it's just a URL away. So rather than have all of that stuff inside your app, well, just paste a URL in and we can collaborate on that document over there. Or you can upload, a document, a PDF or whatever, and it can all be kind of contained in these silos. But you've not tried to build the app that handles everything. You've tried to build a visual representation of your own workflow. And I think that's the genius bit of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, if I was like a really big company, maybe I could do all these things really well. But I know people who run companies who basically just do proposals, and that's the only thing that they do. And there's so much like nuance in there for building a proposal tool that that's basically a full-time job in itself. And the same for having a collaborative document. It sounds simple, and I guess maybe we take it for granted how much work actually goes into these individual tools to make them so great. And I think if you try to build something that's got all of these, that work in your specific app, you're going to have a really, really hard time making that a good experience all around. And that was my frustration with a lot of project management software, because, I felt like, oh, you're trying to be Google Docs or you're trying to be something else, but it's just buggy and it's just not working. And I'd rather just be able to use Google Docs with this. So yeah, that was the frustration there.
Yeah, I think the other nice thing, of course, is that this belongs inside your own URL. So it doesn't have to be even a subdomain. You just bolt it onto your your regular domain, and there it is. It's quite nice because you can brand it, so you can put your logo in and it looks like your creation, if you like. But you can also brand your client portal side of things, can't you? So that if your client is given the correct URL, they'll arrive at something which looks like their own branding, which I think is a nice touch as well.
Yeah, so it was very deliberate in the design that I wanted it to be able to look like an extension of pretty much any website. So I didn't want it to look like an external tool because, I had that frustration too, where I want people to think that this is just something that I built myself. So that was really important. And like you said, there's really two ways you can go about the branding. You can either brand every portal to completely match your website with your logo, your colors, and whatever else. Or if you've got a bit of extra time with each client, you can brand each individual portal to match their branding. And I usually do this, even though it doesn't take much longer. It's literally changing the design is so simple. So it's about changing like 3 colors and uploading a logo.
Yeah.
But it makes them, it just kind of, at the start of the project, I think it kind of gives them that, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. I've never had this before. They've actually put a lot of work into making this, especially for me. And the truth is you haven't really put a lot of work into it, but the client thinks you have. And I actually had one of my clients when I was using it with my, when I was freelancing, who said, this portal thing you've got is amazing. Did you make it yourself? And I said, well, yeah, I did. And he was like, you should make this into a product and sell it. It's great.
So you did.
Yeah, exactly. So I ended up doing just that.
When you get inside of it, another sort of remarkable thing about it is that it's kind of not fixed on anything. You can make it your own, but the principle is that it's kind of cards, and behind those cards is other things. So the client might log in and see 5 or 6, 7 or 8, however many parts you have to your process. So in my case, it would possibly be, the client would log in and there might be a "have you signed the contract" bit, and that would be either ticked or not ticked, and there's a lovely little green circular tick in the top right hand corner of that card. And if not, then they can click on it and I could send them off to a copy which I'd store in WordPress of their contract, and once they've signed it, I can then tick that off, and then they'll move on to the next card. And you can make that whatever you want. So it might be, have you downloaded and checked and agreed on the wireframe? So yeah, ticked, move on, and on it goes. So it could be absolutely anything, and it doesn't just fit web design. It could be anything where there's a process.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I've had so many different people use it. I've had lawyers use it, accountants. I've had furniture shops use it, and travel agents, and all these people who I would never have thought would have even found it ended up being customers, and they use it. And yeah, so it's doesn't have to be specific to web design at all.
Inside of each card, you alluded to it earlier, but it might be good to be specific about this. There, you can link to 3 different kinds of things. You can link to a URL. You can link to, what are the others? I'm sorry, my mind's gone blank.
So you can either link to a URL. You can upload files.
That's
so
it.
If you upload some files to Client Portal, it'll be displayed in like a nice little modal where they can download it. Or we have content pages, which is the newest feature of Client Portal, which is something I've wanted for so long. So I'm so happy it's out.
That's really good. I love this. To talk about this, tell us what's in the content page, because that is really nice.
Yeah, it's so simple, but it just makes it so unbelievably flexible. It's basically a page with a left-hand sidebar, which kind of takes all your modules and stuff and puts it, it's like a little navigation down the left. And then on the right, it's basically just a place where you can put anything. So you can embed videos, you can embed text, you can embed like iframes, or, I think even stuff like Trello boards can be put in there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's sort of within Client Portal rather than when you use a URL, you sort of leave Client Portal. So that's really, really nice. And that's enabled me to be able to use it for so many more things. So like I said, I use it for the knowledge base now. So when someone clicks on a module, it goes to a page where, it tells them how to do XYZ with Client Portal. And then we have this really nice navigation at the left-hand side where they can sort of jump between the different content pages. You could use it for things like video courses. So I think on the demo that I've got, I think in the first module, the getting started one, there's like a video at the top and then some text underneath, which is literally pretty much exactly the same as the courseware that I use for my design course, except that came out before I had this new feature in Client Portal. Else it would have been, perfect. I mean, that's really all you need for courseware is the ability to be able to have a video, have some text. You can link out to different worksheets. You can embed forms in there, so you can have questionnaires straight in Client Portal if you use something like Contact Form 7 or Gravity Forms. So the content page has just made it so unbelievably flexible. So I'm still absolutely flying that that's finally released.
Is the content page recyclable between different clients? So could I, for example, have client X over here looking at this content page and also client Y looking at the exact same content page?
Yeah, exactly. So you create a content page and then you just you'll have like a section in WordPress of all your content pages, and then when you create a portal, you can either select one of those or you can create a new one from there.
It's just one of those things that unless you've seen it, you kind of can't work out how useful it could be. But it's dead simple and yet really straightforward, so kind of takes care of all those things. Just one thing that occurred to me when I was playing around with it was one of the requirements I recently had. Actually, it's going back about a year before I was even aware that Client Portal existed. The client wanted a portal, and they were an automotive company, and they wanted the assets to be absolutely siphoned off so that this client, no matter what happened, they could not download the assets that was belonging to another client, even if they got hold of the URL. Does it do any clever stuff like that, or is it simply the fact that they're on this page so they can click the link, they're allowed the asset, or does it block access to the assets that other people shouldn't be able to see?
So basically every client will have an individual login, and you will assign a client to a particular portal. So only the people who have the login information for that portal and the link will be able to access things that are inside that. The only exception to that is for the upload files feature. We basically upload them to WordPress's media library.
Of course.
And unfortunately, WordPress's media library, I do not know why they do this. It's like the worst thing ever, and I hope they change it. But if you have a direct link to anything in the media library, you can access that. So we're trying to work on something that can kind of get around that. So, if you have the direct link, you can't access the files.
Yes.
But if there's anything like super confidential, we recommend like using something like Dropbox or something that I think is a bit more secure in that kind of sense, and only use the upload thing just as you would any other file you upload to WordPress. Everything is unfortunately downloadable, but we are working on something to get around that, and in the meantime I'm hoping WordPress change that.
Yeah, I mean it ultimately you will succeed at that because it can be done. And
That's good to know.
It's a nice little feature, isn't it? If you can pull that one off. In other words, if client X moved to rival client Y and they were both on your books and still had all the URLs for the top secret widget that they were building, they could no longer get it because they weren't logged in. As you say, the media library is just an open repository. It's public facing stuff, isn't it? But yeah, interesting. Yeah. So is there anything apart from that user permission thing that you've just mentioned? Is there anything that you've got on the books planned for the future, the roadmap, if you like?
Yeah, so we have a public roadmap. It's in a Trello board. I've actually got it up right now. So what we're working on at the minute is, firstly, the I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, Gutenberg thing?
Yes.
Yeah,
I say Gutenberg, but if you're in America, you say Gutenberg.
Ah, okay. I've obviously been in America.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. So we're going to do like we're going to make sure that it's going to, work with that when that comes out.
Okay.
We're adding a couple of translations. We're also adding, support for the WordPress comment system, so you'll be able to write comments with your
neat.
client.
Yeah, that's a neat idea. Yeah.
Yeah, in Client Portal. And then the other thing that we're working on, which is something that we've been meaning to do for a really long time, is the ability to assign multiple clients to a single portal. So the way it works at the minute is you can have one client per portal. Obviously, some people need more than one client per portal. There is a workaround for that. You basically make it a password protected portal rather than a one that where you have a specific user with a login.
So you just won't use WordPress's built-in password protection.
Yeah, but all we've done is we've just styled it so it matches Client Portal, and it's not like that ugly modal thing that pops up. It's like a proper login page that just gives you a password thing. But what we're working on right now is the ability for multiple clients to be able to have different logins and log into a portal. And yeah, and then we work on a lot of translations as well. So we're adding German and Danish, and as more come in, we'll keep doing that. But yeah, that's our current roadmap, and we have a ton of other stuff that's coming in the future, but we're not working on right now, which I don't like to necessarily commit to, because we've had it sometimes where we've said we're going to do something and then we've found out that it's either not possible or just really, really hard and would mean we need to change everything in Client Portal. So those ones I mentioned are the ones that are definitely happening because they're being worked on right now. And then you've got there's a link on the Client Portal website to the roadmap where you can add your own feature requests as and when you like, and then you can vote on them as well, and we'll basically go through those and see what's what.
Okay, great. Are you working on anything else as well, or is it Client Portal and your course all the way, or like that's your thing from now on?
Yeah, it's pretty much just Client Portal and the course, so that keeps me busy full time. So fortunately, I've released my course now, so that part's done. But I'm always kind of refining it and tweaking it, and talking about it and stuff. So just those two.
Well, it seems like you've got your hands full. Very popular, and no doubt, it's still young, but being discovered. And I think, as with everything, the more features that you add in, and the more time that passes, the more people that hear about it, the more popular it will be. It's great. I really like it. I just love the way it looks. That was my primary thing when I went to your website. Nice, straightforward, beautifully designed website. And actually, can I say, I actually think your PDF document with your nice little curvy red arrows was quite nicely done as well.
Oh yeah, that needs updating big time. That's from an earlier version, but I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at it and thought, do you know what? I would have just drawn a bog standard quick one, but you've done a nicely curved one, and they're all curved in unison, and it looks really good.
Yeah, that's the downside to being a designer. Everything takes so much longer.
It has to be right. It has to be right. Yeah, but it honestly very good. I would commend the audience to go and check it out. It's client-portal.io, and that's all the questions I've got, Laura. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit more about where you can be found, or anything else that you want to offer the audience. It's up to you. Off you go.
Yeah. So I do have an offer for the audience. If anyone's interested in getting Client Portal, you can get 20% off by just using the coupon code WPBuilds. And if you want to ask me any questions, you can either find me on Twitter, which is @Laurium, which is LAURIUM, or you can just email me. My inbox is always open to anyone who wants to ask questions, either about Client Portal or freelancing or the design course, whatever it is. And that's laura@lauraelizabeth.co. And yeah, I also have a free little mini course, if anyone in your audience is a freelancer, which is clientexperiencecourse.com, and that just kind of takes you through everything I learned while I was freelancing about working with clients and giving them a really, really good experience.
Great. Laura, thanks for coming on the podcast today. I hope that you continue to see spikes in your sales, and that this is what you can do from now on. Cheers very much.
Thank you so much.